Moses Malone was never loud about his greatness, but his presence spoke in ways few players ever could. Calvin Murphy and Robert Parish both described Moses as a force that wore you down mentally before the game even settled in, a man who treated every rebound like a personal mission. There was no glamour to it, no flash for the cameras, just an endless hunger that made opponents feel smaller with every possession. Moses didn't ask for respect, he extracted it through effort, night after night, in silence. Watching him work was watching basketball reduced to its raw truth. Like and subscribe for more untold basketball legacies. Calvin Murphy saw Moses up close in Houston, before the championships and before the mythology fully formed. He has said Moses played like someone who believed the ball belonged to him, no matter how many defenders stood in the way. His second jumps were quicker than most players' first, and that relentlessness broke teams long before the fourth quarter arrived. Murphy believed Moses changed the psychology of rebounding, turning it from a skill into an obsession. Guards trusted him because missed shots felt less like mistakes and more like opportunities. Robert Parish, a fellow Hall of Fame center, respected Moses in a way only another big man could. Parish understood that battling Moses wasn't about strength alone, but about survival over 48 minutes. Moses leaned on you, moved you inch by inch, and made every rebound a small war. Parish has often implied that Moses forced centers to confront their own limits, because effort alone wasn't enough against someone who never stopped coming. Facing him meant accepting bruises, fatigue, and frustration as part of the job. What made Moses unique was how little he cared for praise. Calvin Murphy noted that Moses played the same, whether the arena was packed or half empty, whether the cameras followed him or ignored him. His focus lived entirely between the rim and the floor. That mindset translated into wins, into MVPs, into championships, without ever changing who he was. He wasn't chasing legacy, legacy chased him. Robert Parish saw Moses as the blueprint for dominance without decoration. There were no speeches, no gestures, no need to prove toughness. Moses' toughness showed up on the glass, in traffic, and in the exhaustion of whoever tried to stop him. Parish believed that Moses taught an entire generation of big men that greatness could be built on effort and will alone. You didn't need elegance when you controlled the outcome. Moses Malone's rebounding wasn't just production, it was intimidation. Calvin Murphy often emphasized that players stopped crashing the boards the same way. Once Moses was in the game, big men hesitated, guards pulled back, and entire defensive schemes quietly adjusted to his presence. The ball came off the rim, and Moses attacked it like it was personal. That urgency never faded, not in the first quarter or the last possession. It was constant pressure that changed how games felt. Robert Parish remembered how Moses controlled space without saying a word. He didn't need to bark orders or show emotion because his positioning already dictated everything. Parish noted that Moses anticipated where the ball would land before it even touched the rim. That anticipation separated him from everyone else. You weren't just late, you were already beaten, and once Moses had leverage, the play was over. Calvin Murphy believed Moses made effort contagious. Teammates played harder because they didn't want to waste his work. When you saw a big man fighting through three defenders just to tip the ball to himself, it raised the standard for everyone else. Murphy said Moses never blamed others, but his example made excuses impossible. You either matched his energy or you were exposed. That kind of leadership didn't need speeches. Robert Parish often described Moses as exhausting in the purest sense. Every possession against him felt heavier than the last. Parish knew strength mattered, but stamina mattered more, and Moses tested both relentlessly. He kept coming, even when plays broke down or shots didn't fall. Parish respected that consistency because it broke pride as much as bodies. You could survive talent, but not that will. Moses also had a quiet confidence that Calvin Murphy admired deeply. He never rushed, never panicked, and never seemed surprised by physical play. Murphy said Moses expected contact and welcomed it. Fouls didn't discourage him, they confirmed he was doing his job. That mindset allowed him to dominate without forcing anything. The game bent toward him naturally. Robert Parish saw Moses as a mirror for other centers. When you faced him, you learned quickly where your weaknesses lived. Parish admitted that Moses exposed lazy footwork and half effort instantly. There was no hiding in the paint with him around. He demanded full attention on every rebound and every seal. That honesty is what earned him so much respect. Calvin Murphy pointed out that Moses didn't rely on systems. He thrived in any structure, any tempo, any lineup, whether the offense flowed or stalled. Moses found ways to impact the game. Murphy believed that adaptability made him timeless. He could dominate in any era because effort never goes out of style. Moses proved that nightly. Robert Parish often said Moses was stronger mentally than physically. He never got discouraged by missed shots or tough whistles. Parish noticed that Moses stayed locked in no matter what happened. That mental toughness made him dangerous late in games. While others wore down, Moses stayed steady. That steadiness was crushing. Moses Malone's MVP seasons weren't surprises to Calvin Calvin Murphy. He saw the foundation years earlier in Houston. The habits were already there. The discipline already formed. Murphy felt the league simply caught up to what Moses had always been. Greatness doesn't arrive suddenly. It reveals itself. Moses was proof of that truth. Robert Parish believed Moses redefined dominance for big men. It wasn't about finesse or highlight plays. It was about control. Control of space. Control of rebounds. Control of momentum. Parish respected that kind of authority because it couldn't be fake. Moses earned it possession by possession. That made it real. Calvin Murphy admired how Moses stayed grounded despite success. Championships and awards didn't change his approach. Murphy said Moses showed up the same way every night, ready to work. Fame didn't soften him, and pressure didn't harden him. He stayed himself, and that authenticity carried weight. Teammates trusted it. Robert Parish saw Moses as the kind of opponent you prepared for all week and still felt unready to face. Film helped, plans helped, but nothing fully solved the problem. Parish admitted that Moses always found cracks. He adjusted faster than defenses could respond. That adaptability kept him ahead. Moses Malone also carried a quiet pride that Calvin Murphy respected. He didn't boast, but he believed deeply in his value. Murphy said Moses knew his role and embraced it fully. That clarity gave him confidence. He never tried to be something else. He mastered exactly who he was. Robert Parish believed Moses made the game simpler by stripping it down. Rebound, score, repeat. No wasted motion, no unnecessary drama. Parish respected that efficiency because it won games. Moses understood basketball at its core. That understanding made him lethal dot by the time Moses Malone's career slowed. Calvin Murphy felt the league had already absorbed his influence. Rebounding was no longer optional. Effort was no longer negotiable. Moses set that standard. Robert Parish agreed that his legacy lived in the mindset he forced onto others. Moses Malone didn't just dominate his era, he reshaped how power, effort, and belief were measured in the paint. Robert Parish never forgot how Moses Malone turned a game into a long test of endurance. From the opening tip, Moses applied steady pressure that never spiked but never faded either. Parish felt that constancy was what broke defenders down over time. You could survive a burst of dominance, but surviving an entire night of it was different. Moses made sure the game stayed heavy on your legs and lungs. Calvin Murphy often pointed out that Moses played with a deep sense of patience. He didn't force the game to bend immediately. He trusted that effort would compound. Every box out, every tap, every extra jump added up. Murphy believed Moses understood something rare. That dominance didn't have to be loud to be effective. It just had to be relentless. Robert Parish admired how Moses never rushed into frustration. Even when early rebounds didn't fall his way, Moses stayed committed to the same approach. Parish saw that discipline as a form of control. Moses never let opponents dictate his emotional pace. He stayed locked into his rhythm until resistance wore thin. Calvin Murphy remembered how opposing teams adjusted entire game plans just to slow Moses down. Extra bodies in the paint, constant double teams, early fouls, nothing ever fully worked. Moses accepted the attention as part of the job. Murphy believed that kind of respect from opponents was earned long before the opening tip. Moses commanded it without demanding it. Robert Parish often described Moses as a problem that never solved itself. Even when you thought you had him figured out, the pressure kept coming. Parish felt that Moses' strength wasn't just physical, but mental. He forced you to question whether your effort level was truly enough. That doubt was his quiet advantage. Calvin Murphy saw Moses as someone who played for control, not highlights. Every rebound secured felt like ownership of the moment. Moses dictated tempo by deciding who got second chances and who didn't. Murphy believed that control was the foundation of Moses' greatness. He didn't dominate possessions. He dominated outcomes. In the end, Robert Parish summed up Moses Malone with a simple truth. Playing against him meant accepting that nothing would come easy. Every rebound, every point, every win had to be earned the hard way. Moses didn't just challenge your skill, he challenged your will, and that is why his legacy still carries weight today.